Welcome to the Living Ageless and Bold podcast. Each episode, I bring you amazing women who inspire, educate, and share their experiences and journeys along the way. So grab a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, find a cozy spot, and let's relax and have some fun hearing what can be accomplished after 55. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Living Ageless and Bold. Today's an awesome guest. Angel Cornelius is the founder of Maison 276, which is a best-selling beauty brand for women like us, middle-aged women, that she started in her 50s. And she has been featured everywhere with this brand. Today Show, USA Today, O Magazine, Essence. It goes on and on. So just to show you what a best-selling brand it is. And I can't wait to hear her journey and her story and what made her start this in her 50s. So welcome, Angel.
Thank you. Thank you, Christina. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And I'm honored that you would like to share my story with your community.
Oh my gosh. Well, you're a powerhouse. But we always talk about, this is why I love doing this podcast. You know, I didn't wake up at 57 and have a podcast and, be a lifestyle expert and speaking on stages and doing all this really great stuff. It's a journey that gets us to where we are. So we'd love to hear, where did you start? Did you start in the beauty industry or something totally different? And then you worked your way here?
Definitely the latter. I did not start in the beauty industry. Most of my professional experience is in healthcare administration, and that is what I was doing, managing a very busy pediatric clinic for Texas Children's Hospital, which is one of the nation's premier pediatric healthcare systems. And I actually loved my job. But I've always been a beauty DIYer, even before that was a term. That's for some, I'm currently 64, so that's a relatively new term for me. But I was always someone who mixed products that I bought because the things that I bought on their own, they just didn't work, whether it's for my skin or for my hair. Now, as it relates to my hair, I've always considered myself a bit of a unicorn. As you can see, I have a lot of silver. It's mostly white in the front. And my mother found my first silver strand. I was so young, she was still combing my hair. And so I've really grown up with this hair and understand the challenges of what it means to have silver hair. And silvers and blondes are hair sisters. It's like wearing the same white shirt or white dress every day. And for most of my life, except for a short period of about 5 years, I embraced my silver hair. It was kind of like a birthmark. And really growing up, no one ever, it was always something that people admired. It was never something that made me feel different. Well, in a bad way, I should say. And so the challenge that I had most of my adult life was finding products that I like for my hair. The majority of products on the market for silvers and blondes are this category known as the purple shampoos because they're purple.
And what is it? My daughter's a blonde, which I don't know how that happened. But she uses the purples. And I always wondered, what is the
Why is it purple,
yeah.
Right? So those purple pigments are there. Like I said, having silver or blonde hair is like wearing the same white dress every day. No matter how much you wash it, it's going to get dull. It's going to get dingy. And that's what it's like having colorless hair. So the challenge for the consumer of the purple products is that when you keep adding color to colorless hair, it takes on those hues and you get old lady blue hair. And so the consumer cannot use that product all the time. So she has purple products that she uses sometimes, and then she has regular shampoos and conditioners. And so she's buying twice as many products as her peers, spending twice as much money. And it's this vicious mental cycle of trying to figure out what to use when, just to wash your hair, right? Aside from the fact that this purple stuff gets everywhere, it stains your clothes, your towels, your white tiles in the bathroom. And so what I created initially in my kitchen, because I'm a very unintentional entrepreneur. I wasn't trying to start a company, but I created products to take care of my hair that did not have the purple pigments. And so
So
I could
what
use
I was just
it.
gonna say, what did you do? Like, did you just pull things out of your pantry and say, I'm gonna try this or that? Did you try
It's
olive
some of
oils?
that. It was now you have access to the internet, right? And so this was in maybe 2014, 2015 when I really started mixing up products in my kitchen again for my own personal use. And so with the internet, you have access to not just more information, but to actually source ingredients. And so I just began sourcing a lot of natural ingredients, ingredients that address what was my pain point. One, I wanted products to gently cleanse my hair. A lot of the products on the market, a lot of the purple products have phosphates, sulfates, which are very drying and stripping. And our hair is just like our skin. It changes as we mature. So, which is very normal. There's nothing wrong. That's just like the normal part of the aging process. Your skin gets drier. Well, your hair does too. And so what worked when you were 20 or 30, it doesn't work when you're 40, 50, or 60. And so it was sourcing ingredients that were going to continue to nourish and condition and moisturize my hair, keep my silver brilliant and bright without purple products. And so the things that I created in my kitchen are now our hero products. And that's the 3-step system for silver and blonde hair. And so the silver and blonde consumer, she now can keep her silver and blonde brilliant and bright without the purple pigments. So now she doesn't need 2 sets of products. She doesn't have to spend twice as much money. She has 1 set of products. And whether you're someone who washes your hair every day, or you wash your hair once a week, because it's texture agnostic. I like to say our customers look like America. It doesn't matter the texture. We're solving for color and condition. And so you can use it every day, or you can use it if you wash your hair once a week, because there's never that concern of adding unwanted color. And you're also saving money and you're saving time, because you don't have to go through this mental gymnastics of trying to figure out which product to use, simply to wash and condition your hair.
And this is when what I read is that this is for women our age, middle-aged women, but it sounds like I can buy this for my 24-year-old daughter.
Yes, we have a lot of young blondes who use the product. We have women who buy the product for their husbands. Oftentimes with men, for whatever reason, their silver will come in with their beard before it comes in with their hair. And beard hair is like Brillo pads. Like, it is so coarse and hard. And so our products, the Maison 276 products, are perfect because it conditions and softens that beard hair, while also because they have the same concerns, right? It gets dull and brassy and kind of brown looking. It removes that discoloration while also softening and conditioning the beard hair. And that's why I say our customer looks like America.
Love it. I'm buying this for my husband too, because he'll be 59 and he has a full head of hair. A lot of friends are jealous, but he's definitely graying and it's getting wiry. You know how that is. It gets frustrating. So you have a new customer here for my daughter and my husband.
Perfect,
Yeah.
perfect. And you brought up a word that is often used to describe silver hair, and it's wiry. And I always say silver hair is not difficult, it's different. When our hair, one, as we mature, our hair changes, even if you don't turn silver or gray, because that is very much about genetics. People often say, oh, I wish my hair would look like this person they might see on the internet or that person. And I always say, well, ask your parents. And people will often say, oh, my mother colors her hair. And I said, it doesn't matter. She knows.
Right.
She knows what the roots look like. Trust me. So that's very much driven by genetics. But even still, we still have to address those naturally occurring changes that take place in our hair. And when the hair stops producing melanin, which is the thing that gives it color, that's when everything about that hair changes. And so that is the challenge many people have, because they feel like I've got all these different kinds of hair on my head. That's actually true. You absolutely do. You've got the melanated hair, if you still have some of that, and then you've got the unmelanated hair. And so it is different, but it's not difficult. You just need the right products.
Okay, so you're mixing things up in your kitchen and your house, and you find the magic potion. You figure it out. And I'm someone who invented a product and had to go figure out, how do I get this to market? It's not easy. So let's talk about, you found this and you're like, oh, how do you tell the world about it? How do you create this product and get it to market and become a best-selling brand? That's amazing.
Well, it wasn't my original intent to tell the world. My friends actually found out I was making beauty products, and they were my first customers. Like, they literally harassed me to make enough product to sell to them, because I was working like 50 hours a week. It was a very busy clinic. I'm on call all the time, and just like the idea of doing that, it just seemed like such a ridiculous thing. Like, I don't have time to do this. But they eventually convinced me. And so I had to set up an Etsy storefront just to sell products to my friends. I had to create a system for this. So that was my first website. And then it really kind of took on a life of its own, very much grassroots. Like, imagine going to local events where you see a vendor table set up, people selling just an assortment of things, and people would invite me to these things, right? And so I would go. And so I would make products on an as needed basis. Like, oh, this order came in, I'll make this. Oh, I'm going to do this event, I've got to make more. And so it just kind of took on a life of its own. And, I would be interviewed by the local media. One time, the NBC affiliate came to my house and interviewed me, then the local newspaper. And it was so weird because people would oftentimes see me in the clinic and they were like,
Hey,
"Were you on
hey.
TV last night?" A dad asked me that in the clinic one morning. I was like, "Yes, I was on TV last night." But that's that's not what we're doing here
Right.
today. How can I help you? And it just really, honestly, Christina, became unsustainable because I was literally getting like 4 or 5 hours sleep. And I did that for several years. And at some point, it just the turning point for me came when the Houston Chronicle interviewed me and another beauty founder in Houston. And it's a brand we all know. You may or may not know the founder of Drunk Elephant is a Houstonian. And so she interviewed us, not together, independently, but we were both in the same article. And it was just like so perplexing to me because I took a PTO day off to do that interview. And I went back to work the next day. But it really, really forced me to look at what I was doing. Now, this was several years ago, pre Drunk Elephant's acquisition. But that was in 2018. And it really forced me to think, like, what would this look like if I gave it 100% of me instead of what's left of me at the end of the day? Because by then I had manufacturers. I wasn't making products in my kitchen anymore, but it was still like a passion project, right?
But
Not
let's, I
a
mean, you kind of
business.
glaze over that, but that's a big deal. I mean, you need packaging and, bottling, and that doesn't, you don't just find somebody, you don't just look, Google. I mean, it's a process to do all of that,
Right.
so
In the beginning, it was Google.
okay.
I like to say in the beginning, it was, that was my training camp. That was my entrepreneur's training camp
So true.
when I had to do everything. I built the website, I made the products, I printed the labels, I figured out like how does shipping work and how to third, like all of those things. I am really grateful for that part of the journey because then when I got to the point where I needed to engage other people who actually did that for a living, like I could have an intelligent conversation and I could also know if that person was a good fit for me. Like I always, even though I didn't intend to start a brand, once I knew I had a brand, I was very, very clear on what I wanted the messaging, what I wanted for a customer experience, what I didn't want, all the things that I didn't like about beauty from the consumer perspective. Like, we're not doing that at Maison 276. So while ageism is a very popular topic now. It wasn't a word that I used, but I always knew I don't like the way middle aged women are portrayed in beauty. I don't like the fact that every product is presented in a corrective manner, right? Anti aging, wrinkle reduction, youth serum. Like, I'm not the silver police. If you want to color your hair, I support that. Our products work for that too. I'm not the silver police, but most of the beauty industry approaches us as though it's their job to fix everything they think is wrong with that. And I've always rejected that as a woman. And so when I came into like architecturing Maison 276, I already knew those were things that I didn't want. Like, I didn't need to read articles about that. I was already a dissatisfied consumer, not just from the product perspective, but from the messaging perspective. And I always knew when you encountered Maison 276, you were going to see yourself. No matter who you are, you are going to see yourself, and you're going to see yourself reflected in a way that's beautiful and vibrant and energetic, and all hair types and textures and all sizes. Like, I was committed to Maison 276 looking like America. And so no matter who you are, you're going to see yourself. And so even though my own efforts in the beginning, what I call my boot camp, might not be as refined as it is now, I was always intent on that. And so in terms of, finding manufacturers, like that was a struggle. And initially it was Google. And because a lot of times manufacturers want to white label products, and white labeling is when you buy something someone else has already created and you put your label on that, which is why oftentimes people buy beauty products and they don't see a difference. And because a lot of times the label is the only thing that's different. The product itself is not. And so it was a challenge finding someone who actually wanted to use the formulas that I had. When you tell people, oh yeah, this is something that I made in my kitchen, like 99% of the people are not interested in that. But I'm very grateful because I found a boutique manufacturer whose mission was to help startup brands and startup founders. And that worked with a lot of brands that, including Maison 276, but other brands that we know today that had those very humble roots because they were creating something that didn't exist.
It's so great you bring all of that up, because I did. So my product was fashion accessories for medical boots. And same thing, I called every factory in the United States, and because it was something new, they didn't want to work with me. And I literally went to a textile show in New York City with my sample that nobody knew what it was because the product hadn't existed before. And I literally went booth to booth. Can you make this? Can you make this? Can you make this? Until I finally found a manufacturer out of Philadelphia who manufactured my product for me. But talking about the entrepreneurial boot camp, like living it, is so important for anybody, because we have a lot of people starting things in their 50s, and I think it was Oprah who said that, years ago, you've got to sign your own checks. Like you have to know what's happening in your business. And if you don't do the boot camp and that didn't work, tried that didn't work, it's really going to be really hard for you to run a big company, a big brand like this, if you don't know those early steps. So that's a really important part of what you did.
Yeah, and you can't, there's no shortcut. I mean, and social media is great for a lot of things, but it's not really great at telling the entrepreneur's real journey. And I will say also, a lot of entrepreneurs, it's not just social media, a lot of entrepreneurs aren't comfortable sharing that until they become household brand names, right? Then they feel comfortable sharing the struggles, and I try to be as transparent as possible, whether I'm doing a podcast, an interview, speaking to a group of women, because And the reason I do that is because I want them to know when it gets really difficult, when you have failures, when you have challenges, when you hear no 100 times for
lot,
every yes,
a lot.
right? That you're not necessarily doing anything wrong. Like that is the way it is. And people often don't feel comfortable sharing that because it feels like failing. It feels like failing, but is literally just is part of the journey. I'm a runner, and I compare it to marathons. Like it's really easy to be on the sidelines, and when you're running a marathon, like you love the people on the sidelines cheering. Like there are points during that race where you really need that because you're like, why am I doing this?
Right.
But what they don't see are the training runs, right? They don't see you getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do a run, or splitting your long run between the 4 o'clock in the morning run and then the 6 o'clock in the evening run. Or, when other people are doing a party or whatever, like you got to go there and not eat and drink all the good stuff because you're racing. Like it's all that, like nobody sees that. You just see them crossing the finish line, right? But you don't do any of that without training. None of that happens. You don't finish the race
No.
without the right training.
Although my son's girlfriend ran the New York City Marathon, and I think the furthest she ever ran was 10 miles.
Yeah,
And
you don't have to do 26.
yeah,
Now, in
you
full
finished.
transparency, I've never other than the actual marathon, I've never done a training run more than 15 miles.
Okay.
But 15 miles is still a
That's
lot.
a lot.
And you still have to train to be able to do those 15 miles
You're right.
consistently.
You're right.
So, yeah, and she's young.
It's very true.
Yeah.
So tell us, what was the biggest struggle that you overcame watching this? And one, maybe you could give us 5 because I know there were 5.
Each stage, what I have found is that each stage of growth represents new and bigger challenges.
So true.
So, because there was each point along the way that I just thought, if I can just get through this, it is going to be smooth sailing. And then you grow a little bit more, and then they're new challenges. So, the first was finding a manufacturer. I mean, and that process, your iteration and then taking that and turning that into a commercially viable product that still has the DNA of the original formulation, that is a process. That is a process. So there's that. And then preparing to work with retail partners. All retail partners aren't the same. And so, I had some early retail partners before reaching QVC. And so I thought, I'm ready. And then the QVC, like that was there were a lot of new boxes to check before I made that on-air launch. But while it was difficult, it still prepared me for the next thing. And so each challenge, each achievement takes you to another level of new challenges. But everything in the past, you still use all of those muscles, you still pull from all of those resources, and you have to remind yourself sometime, like, okay, remember when you thought that was so hard,
Right?
and you did
Exactly.
that thing, and now you look back and you're like, that's nothing. And so there comes, that's another tool that you have to have as an entrepreneur or anyone making a midlife pivot, is that you have to remind yourself of all of your past accomplishments, all of the past challenges, all of the past lessons. Like you have to be able to encourage yourself. You really do. And remind yourself, I think midlife is like the perfect time to launch something new. Like you have decades of experience, decades of challenges. You've built teams, you've overcome, so many obstacles, lessons learned. Like you have created this amazing toolkit that someone, frankly, 20 or 30, they just don't have. and you are so set up to achieve things beyond what you could possibly have imagined. Because frankly, I'm going to tell you, 10 years ago, if you had said I would be sitting here having these conversations and talking about these things that I have done, there was nothing 10 years ago that would have helped me envision. Like I couldn't have connected the dots. Like I couldn't have seen how I was going to be at this. Like I just couldn't have seen it because the things hadn't happened yet.
I totally get it. And I speak to college students. I say this in all my podcasts, but I tell them my journey, my story. I wanted to go to law school and couldn't pass the LSAT. Failure, failure number one. But if you would, even when I was 49, what I could accomplish in my 50s, like,
Right.
are you kidding me? I love my life now. It's so fun. And I'm doing things I never would have dreamed of. Me on TV all the time? No way. And you brought up QVC. I just got an agent. Like I'm a QVC guest host and I have an
Well,
agent. Like,
awesome. Congratulations.
you know,
Congratulations.
Thank
QVC is
you.
the best. I really loved my time with them. They are built for the entrepreneur, I always say.
Yeah. And what I have found in the women that I've interviewed is we've got this. And if we don't have it, okay, it's not going to break us. Like I talk to these 20-year-olds who, don't get one job and they think they're washed up. I'm like, oh, ladies,
Right.
but that you're willing to try. And, whether you've left corporate or, you're empty nester now, whatever you did in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, now is
Right.
your time. And you are just the epitome of that, which I love. Let's talk about the name of the company because it's from one of my favorite cities where you're from.
It is. So the brand name is inspired by my New Orleans roots, Maison's French for house, and 276 is the street address of the house where I grew up. So, I always say that really my upbringing in New Orleans, I'm the oldest of three children, is really instrumental in me becoming a beauty founder. I've always loved science. I was a biology major for about 2.5 years of college and ultimately changed, but I've always loved science. I've always loved the practical part of it, the hands-on part of it. I love cooking. I probably learned to cook when I was 11 or 12. I think that was the first time my mother gave me instructions to go cook something. And so, New Orleans culture is very much built around food.
I love New Orleans. I love the food. Yes.
So the loving of cooking and the love of science. Like, I was mixing up beauty products. I remember I was telling my mother this actually when we were home this weekend because I went to visit that house. My mother sold it about 20 years ago and I had not been back. So I went to visit 276. And so I was saying like, yeah, this is the first place I made my first beauty product when I mixed Jergens lotion and baby oil. And my mother was like, I didn't know you were doing that. Because I just didn't like the way the lotion felt. Now I know it was primarily water. And so that's exactly why it wasn't doing what it was intended to do, at least for me. So that is the brand inspiration.
Well, you are amazing. Congratulations on building this incredible brand. I wrap up every episode. I ask everyone the same two questions.
Okay.
What is the greatest thing that you have accomplished since you turned 50?
Oh, wow, that's so much. Because I was 57 when this all started.
Okay, I want everyone to listen to that. She was 57 when she started this. I love that. I'm 57. Like I said, I'm just on a high every day from what is happening in my life right now. So this is just the start.
I don't have one thing. I mean, next month, my husband and I will be celebrating our 40th wedding anniversary. We are college sweethearts. So, that's a great accomplishment. I feel we have two amazing children. Um, that is a huge accomplishment. And in fact, my son left a very, very promising and already successful career in finance to join me as co-founder of Maison 276. I could never, when I said like 10 years ago, there were things that I could not have imagined. Oh, that's certainly one of them. I could never have imagined that he would join me as co-founder, and I am truly grateful because he is truly, one of my greatest assets. And just building Maison 276 with him, and every part of my family, their fingerprint is somewhere on this company. Most of the what you would consider professional photos of me are actually taken by my husband. Like any magazine photo cover that I've been on, like he took that picture. He's not a professional photographer, but that's like one of his hobbies. So, that's one of the things that like everyone's fingerprint is on it in some way, even if you don't see them. And so, yeah, I there's no one answer.
That's a pretty
And I
good
also
answer.
believe that I haven't done the greatest thing yet.
Well, and that's a great
Like
answer.
I'm working on it.
Oh, I love it. And then where do you see yourself in 10 years?
I was going to say hopefully retired, but interestingly enough,
I don't think so.
when our daughter was in college, I said, I'm going to retire from Texas Children's and do something fun. I don't know what it's going to be. God has a funny sense of humor because this is not what I was thinking, but I am definitely doing something fun. I 10 years from now, I don't want to say that I will be retired, but I do want Maison 276 to be recognized as one of the brands, one of the companies that completely flipped the beauty industry and revolutionized their view. And I believe that we are doing that right now on what it means to be a middle-aged woman. So if there's anything that I'm most proud of right now, that is it. Like we are changing the beauty industry, not just in terms of bringing innovative products to the market, but in terms of representing middle-aged women in a way that's authentic to who she is, how she sees herself, and how she lives her life. That is the thing that I'm most proud of.
Oh, thank you for doing that. Thank you for living ageless and bold. You are just the epitome of what this podcast is.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been my honor and pleasure.
Oh, thank you. And everyone to check out the product. The website, I'm assuming, is maison276.com.
Yep. On Instagram and Facebook, and that's also spelled Maison 276.
Great. And everything will be in the show notes. Thank you so much. It was great to spend this time with you. Thank you for listening or for watching this episode of Living Ageless and Bold. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit subscribe. And if you like the episode, I hope that you will give us a great review. You can also head over to livingagelessandbold.com and sign up for information, inspiration, and exclusive opportunities for us, women over 55. Thanks for listening. And remember, no matter what you do, keep living ageless and bold.